Hey everyone, welcome back to my last episode, my finale of season 2. I cannot believe we are already there. It's been 4 weeks. It's been fun 4 weeks meeting all different types of guests from different walks of life. And if you have not, take a moment, smash the like button and subscribe. Invite someone to the show tonight. It's going to be a good one. A very good friend of mine from the past is coming out to talk all things just entrepreneurship, living in a different country, just running after your dreams. And so, for me, I've always had a dream to start a show, but I was always so scared and nervous. And I was like, will I do it? And something that I've learned in this journey is just start. No matter how long it takes you, just jump and do it. And so, I really had this great idea. Let me do 12 episodes. Let me do all this stuff. But like, honestly, I just didn't have the time. Like, life got a little crazy in the last few weeks. I've been traveling internationally, doing a couple conferences, my kids, my son is graduating, getting ready for high school. And I was like, should I still do the show? And I was like, you know what? I'm still going to do it. Even if I just do 4 episodes, I'm still going to do it. And so I just encourage anyone that has a dream in their heart, don't delay. It might not look how you wanted to do it, how you might want it to be, but it might just take a little bit longer than expected. And so I'm just really glad that I've taken the opportunity to just get out of my comfort zone. Like, it's not my comfort zone to talk to a screen or even just invite people, but I'm just glad that I didn't. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my friend Alicia Kennedy all the way from Michigan right now. Hey, Alicia,
Hi.
welcome to the show. Let's go there. It's so good to connect. A lot of people don't
Yes.
know. I met you in grad school. We both did our masters, and we got a master's of, I can't remember. It's been so many years now.
Public
Public
administration, I think,
administration,
yeah.
yes, when I was living in Michigan, and we graduated the same year. And so it's been so good just following your journey online on Instagram. You're doing amazing things. And so just take a
Yeah.
moment, introduce yourself. What are you doing? Who are you? What do you do?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
So excited to be here. My name is Alicia Kennedy. Who am I? That is such a loaded question for another day. The short version. I am a stay-at-home mom. I have a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, 11-year-old. I also homeschool full time. I guess I'm not exactly a stay-at-home mom because I do have. I'm an author and I'm a curriculum writer slash creator. So I guess my plate is pretty full.
Yes, yes. And so, yeah, like, I one of the things I remember years ago seeing online that you moved to Japan. Like, what made you move to
Yes.
Japan?
Yes, right after we graduated. Funny story. So my husband plays basketball overseas and he has always played that. Like the whole time we were in school together, he was playing basketball overseas.
Mm,
And we were married, but I just didn't make that leap. Um, and I kind of was raised, it's kind of like that independent woman syndrome, right? Like,
yeah.
I gotta finish school. I had my son early, didn't get to go to law school like I wanted to. So I'm like, well, I'm at least gonna get a master's degree. Like, I'm gonna do that. And then bam, I got a really good job. And then bam, like got a house and had a car. And like I was living the dream until I wasn't. I just
Mm,
remember being so miserable. Like God gave me everything I asked for, but I didn't ask him what he wanted from me. And
mm.
so I remember just complaining to my husband about this horrible life I had. That wasn't horrible, right? And he was just like, well, why don't you come to Japan? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I had made up in my mind so long ago, like I was not gonna go. I was not gonna run after him. Like he was gonna, play. We agreed on 10 years. He's on 12. Like he was gonna play, and then we were gonna, settle back down to America. And he asked me to go and I had no excuse. Like I got my master's, I was 25, I had a good job, but didn't feel like I was really going anywhere right now in it. My son was just starting school, so he was young enough for me to homeschool him. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. But then I'm like, well, but what about like your safety net, right? Like I've always worked because I wanted to be a safety net. As a professional athlete, his body, right, is everything. And so if anything
Mm.
ever happened, I'm like, well, I need a job and insurance and things like that. And then God had to subtly remind me, he's like, honey, I am your safety net. Like
Come
you don't
on.
have this. Like even with
Yes.
your job, all of it could disappear. So like don't stay because of that. I got you. And then I'm like, well, God, like I could I hate to fly. And I'm like, this is a 12-hour flight. Like, is this the right person you have? And he's like, what are you afraid of? Like, if it's your time, it's your time. Like riding down the street, walking out the door, laying in bed, like I'm not gonna take you before your time. So
Mm.
it was a lot of me getting over like, okay, I need to the control, right? Like
Mm.
grasping, letting go of the control. And then I'm like, well, God, I'm trying to get closer to you, and you're gonna take me to a country where, they say you don't really exist, like they're Buddhists, right?
Mm.
I ended up living like 20 minutes, not even 20 minutes away from an international Christian school for my son to go to in kindergarten. And then I ended up joining a gospel choir. And I'm talking about like gospel, like like what I grew up listening, like For Every Mountain, like the
Yes.
old soulful gospel songs. They don't speak a lick of English. My whole choir, no, like two people spoke English, but they could all sing perfect English. And
Mm.
so it's like, oh well, God, like they say you're not here, but you're here to show me like it's
Wow.
bigger than that. So moving to Japan was a whole experience. But I think even when we knew each other, that was not on my radar. Like I'm not going to Japan. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is crazy. So you joined a gospel choir. You started. So your son went to end up going to that school.
Yes, international school for kindergarten. And then I actually ended up teaching at the international school for about 2.5 years, 2.5, 3 years. Yeah.
What was that experience like teaching there?
Oh, I loved it. So I'm gonna make this confession on YouTube. I'm not a kid person. Like I have kids. I think they're cute. But like kindergarten, you could have never told me I would teach kids. Like they're a lot. I don't have that high energy for kindergarten,
Yeah.
but they loved me and I loved them. And it was such
Aw.
a great experience. I probably will not do it again, but it was such a great experience. I learned so much. Like I needed that to like get to this next level of life for sure. I absolutely loved it.
So what made you do homeschooling and what made you be an author of kids' books? Like what's the journey there? Like walk me through that experience.
Homeschooling. I never wanted to be a homeschool mom either. Like a long time ago, I'm just gonna like I said, I God, I'm done saying what I would and wouldn't do because I don't need you to like humble me. Like I'll just humble myself and stop saying what I won't do. So
Yeah.
homeschool mom, that wasn't me. Like I was eagerly happy to drop my kid off at school and pick him up and like do cute stuff afterwards, like read and stuff like that. But my son went to an emergent school, and so it was 70% English, 30% Japanese. And the school year was from April to March. And so we were still coming back and forth to Michigan, and he would fall basically behind. Like he went until sixth grade, but he was following behind. And then in second grade is also when the kids started to notice, like, you don't really look like us. So then you have this
Mm.
whole racial tension coming into things. And Japan is a country that's just it's first like an island, right? Because there's no bordering countries. And
Yeah.
so everyone there pretty much, they're all Japanese. I would say it's like 95% Japanese. And so
Mm.
we lived countryside. So we weren't in Tokyo. So there weren't a lot of people who looked like us. And so you can't get mad at the kids because they don't see it, but
Yeah.
then I don't need my son to be the poster child for it. It was really bothering him on a level that I
Mm.
wasn't ready for because he'd
Mm.
done so good all the years before. So
Mhm.
I was pregnant with my second child, and I'm just like, come on, let's do it. Forget it. We're going to homeschool. Teaching had taught me how to create curriculum. I had to teach myself a lot of things to prep them for that. And I was
Mm.
also already teaching like an after school tutoring program. So I'm like, you know what? I got this. Let's do it. And so we started to do it, learned a lot. It's a very humbling experience. It is not always easy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like unlearning what you think you know about school and the way your kids should learn versus like the reality of the way kids at school are learning too. So
Was gonna interrupt, like, did you have to balance being a parent and then being the teacher? Is that
yeah,
is that 2 different
it's very
tracks?
hard. It's very, very hard. It's
How
very,
like,
very
how
hard.
do you like, what's the difference?
It's more me than him, right? Like I
Mm.
have to tell myself I can't get on him about cleaning his room because if you were at school right now, that wouldn't be the
Mhm.
conversation. But
Mm.
also, using homeschool is like a life school, right? Like we're not just teaching you multiplication. We're teaching you why you need multiplication. I'm
Okay.
not just teaching you like reading, writing, and math. I'm teaching you cooking and cleaning. Like I am teaching you all of these things
Mm-hmm.
about life. Like homeschooling is just like a way for me to prepare him for life, and
Mm-hmm.
making everything that he learns in school applicable. So it's hard though. Like I get sick of him, he gets sick of me very much. Very, especially during COVID. I mean, it was hard for everybody. And
Yeah.
homeschool parents, like a lot of people say, oh, well, if you're homeschooling, it's not that hard for you. But no, it is because we go to libraries, we'll do things at Starbucks, we'll go, try to get out. We like to travel. So traveling is
And
very
like
big for us.
when were you in Japan through COVID, or you were in Michigan?
I got stuck in
You got
Michigan.
stuck in
I got
Michigan.
stuck in Michigan. I was pregnant with my third and last child.
Mhm.
Um, and I came home October 2019,
Mhm.
had her May 2020, and we are just now going back in July. So between visas and borders and like everything that came with COVID, it just was so hard because she'd never been to Japan. Even though my middle child was born in Japan, we had
Mm.
an issue with her visa in the process. So
Wow. And so when did you write your first kids book? So now, like, you never thought you'd be a stay-at-home mom, you never thought you'd be a
no,
homeschool mom, and
no,
now you are writing kids books. Like, how does this
yes.
happen?
I don't know. Another thing I never thought I'd do. That should be the title of this episode. Things you never thought you'd do.
Right.
So with writing a book, I actually started with curriculum. So I part of the homeschool journey is figuring out how to teach your kids the things they're supposed to learn. And so
Mhm.
I was getting all of this curriculum and I was very heartbroken. So I told you my son was already going through these racial tension, just like realizing that he's different. And then I get all this curriculum and it still doesn't look like him.
Mm.
And in my heart, like kids should see themselves across the board. Like there
Yeah.
isn't anything that we shouldn't see ourselves in. With
Mhm.
curriculum, we undoubtedly did not like not there. And it was Christian based too. So then it's like, our angel's black. Well, yeah, I don't know. Like, no, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we don't know the clear cut answer, why can't we put a little bit more effort in making sure that everyone is seen? And
Mhm.
so that was my new journey, was to create curriculum that was diverse. And so while I was writing curriculum, um, my heart was heavy again with all the racial tensions in America. This was May 2020. This is when the protests and marches and things were going on. And there's just so much hate like across the board, right? And not even hate,
Mhm.
hate and hurt and like
All of it. Yeah.
unexplainable feelings. And I wanted to go to a march in Washington, because it was the commencement of Martin Luther King's March in Washington. I'm a history major undergrad. So like that was right up my alley. But unfortunately, I just had a C-section a couple weeks ago. And so that wasn't gonna happen for me. And I
Mhm.
was so down about it. My heart was so heavy and like I wanted to do something. And God put like these words on my heart for a book.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, that sounds cute. Like I did write some things down, and then our power went out. I have no idea, but our power went out for the whole day. And my mom took all the kids for the whole day. And so I wrote. And that was the start of me writing. And then I'm like, maybe I can do this. And so I just haven't stopped writing ever since.
So how at this time, how many books do you have out right now?
Two. So I have two books out. I have another one that will come out in the fall. And then hopefully this time next year will be around 10 books
Wow.
out.
What are your books about?
Everything. So the two right now are faith-based books. You are created and you are gifted, which are
Mm.
really affirmations for kids, hitting some of those topics that we don't like talking about, reminding kids that they are loved, that they are gifted, that they were created on purpose for a purpose. Just words that kids needed to hear, especially during that time, because while we're all at each other, the kids see it, and
Yeah.
so people want to kind of pretend like, oh, the kids don't know what's going on. No, kids are very observant, and
Mm.
so just reminding them like we're loved, we're different on purpose. Like we
Mm.
have to see each other because God created you in His image and me as well, and so I can't pick and choose what parts of that image I want to acknowledge or see. I have
Mm.
to acknowledge and see them all, or else God would have made the world in black and white.
Mm.
There wouldn't be any differences. So,
Mm.
Yeah.
What's been the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur? What would you say has been like all your mountaintop experience versus and also your valley experiences?
Like seeing a project through. So like taking a thought from your mind and seeing it in a book is amazing, right? It's like a really amazing big experience. The lows will be everything else. Right now, I'm joking. Like the process, though, the process is hard. Writing the book is the easy part, right? And then you learn like, oh, I need an editor and an illustrator and a formatter and a printer. And then you take in like COVID changing things, including pricing and
Mm.
like everything's more expensive. And it's just like marketing is different. And honestly, I often say like if God would have told me what that road looked like, I probably would have asked him, was there another, like another Alicia he could get for the project because I wouldn't have ran so hard. But I'm very grateful that he showed it to me and gave it to me in bite sizes. He knew how I needed it because I couldn't have handled it all at once.
Wow, and like, have you found there's a lot of competition in writing kids' books?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially now that like the independent author thing is going on, anybody can write a book, anybody can publish it, anybody can figure out how to do it. But the nice thing about books is that it's not as competitive as other businesses because I can have 100 books. Like you can sell your book and I can sell my book, and people will
Mhm.
buy both books, and they can be about the same thing or something different. So books are kind of timeless, right? Like you can sell them forever. Um, they I don't know, we don't have to compete in that instance. We can collaborate more than we can compete.
That's really good. We can collaborate more than we can compete. That's really
Yeah.
good. I think that's like
Yeah.
a lesson that we can learn in life in general. I
Yeah,
think a
I
lot of times
agree.
we feel like, because they have the same product as me, that I
Mhm.
shouldn't do my product. I shouldn't do my
Yeah.
dream because everyone else is doing it. I tell people all the time, you go to the grocery store, how many types of breads are there?
Yeah. No,
A lot of different
seriously.
brands,
A
and
lot.
they're sitting right beside each other. Somebody might like your flavor versus another
Mhm.
flavor, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to have different types of flavor of books or things like that. Have you dealt with a lot of rejection in this process of being an author?
Um, so I was supposed to launch curriculum. I've created two different sets of curriculum. One is financial literacy,
Hmm.
and it's for kids from first grade to sixth grade currently. And it really teaches financial literacy the way we learn math. So you don't just teach kids the quadratic formula. You
Mhm.
start with addition, then subtraction, and multiplication. And that's how I think my financial literacy should be taught. We
Mm,
shouldn't be necessarily jumping straight in. We don't have to jump into stocks right away, or we don't have to jump
mhm.
into retirement, interest rates, things like that. We can just start with what is money? How does it work? What do we need it
Yeah.
for? Build it up, like paying bills and needs versus wants, and like building these core principles. So there's that one, and then there's African American history, which we do the Harlem Renaissance and the Roaring Twenties. That is my wheelhouse, so that's what I went to school for. Undergrad is
Mm,
history,
mhm.
and so we were supposed to launch both of those this week. I ran a Kickstarter. My goal, for those of you who don't know what Kickstarter is, it's a crowd funding campaign
Mhm.
to raise the money to print the material. And the goal was 30K in 30 days. It was very, very ambitious. We did not make it. We made it to 12, almost just short of $12,000, which is amazing still.
Yeah,
But Kickstarter is all or nothing. So if you don't make your goal, you don't get any of it. And so
really.
because we didn't make it, I had to reevaluate. Are we ready? Is this what we should do? What are my options? And the option I chose was to push us back a year. So we'll
Mhm,
launch next year. But ultimately, we needed to grow.
mhm.
We needed to get good at selling what we have. We just had a little bit more to do. Um, but that's really hard as you come up on the date where you're supposed to be celebrating. You're like, well, not really. Now I just have to figure out how to keep everybody on board and keep
Were you
going.
down like, how, like what, like, how did that feel? Like, you saw this, you had this big audacious goal, this big
Mhm.
dream, and you're leading up to the days. You're still having the faith, right? We're Christians here, believing by faith. It might be 24 hours, but you never know.
Yeah.
You might get a big donor
Yeah.
here to
Yeah.
drop it, right? And we get there.
Yeah. So I think it was what I needed. Like that
Mhm.
was the redirection I needed from God. And so like it was enough to keep me going because $12,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah,
My average donation was around $300. So like people
that's
who
really
believed in it,
good.
like believed in it, right? Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't something, but I didn't make it. I had about 80 donors. So 80 people helped me come up with that much money, which was great. But it told me that, okay, if people believe in me, yes, they absolutely believe in me. But I
Mm,
also have to figure out how to get the other people to see it too.
mm.
And so really just working on growing, expanding our audience, expanding, you know, marketing reach and strategy. And it was good. Um, I've been working on this for I'm going into my 4th year. So it's just been a long,
Really?
long journey. So, you want to do it, but I'm not doing it without God. So, like,
Yeah.
God made it clear, like, wait, child, wait. So I'm waiting. So I won't say it's easy, but I will say that, I have that comfort in knowing, like, everything about this project has been God. Like, I had no idea where to look for people. And like they came. Like, when I tell you, I would pray about it and be like, okay, God, I don't know what to do, but you do. So I'm just gonna wait for you to give me who I need. And I have an amazing team now, like a like class A team. And so it's
How'd you
just
find
even
them?
I don't actually, so I do know. Well, it's mixed. So a lot of them are in the basketball world. Um
Hmm.
so a lot of wives or girlfriends of professional basketball players. There's like communities for us on Facebook and stuff like that. So these were people I knew. So the thing about this world is that most of us met our husbands in college, right? And so we
Yeah.
had these degrees that we never got to use because we went overseas to be with our husbands. And
Yeah.
so we have a ministry called Bibles and Basketball where
Mm.
we do Bible study together overseas because a lot of us don't have churches or access to churches.
Mm.
And I met so many people. I've been building relationships for years and years. And then when God put this in my heart, there's an editor who owns a editing company, illustrator, publisher, like everybody I needed, literally just right there. God's like, it's the reason
Amazing.
why. Yeah.
And the quality of your stuff is so
Thank
good. Like,
you.
honestly, it's like like high level, good quality for
Thank
a
you.
person just being an entrepreneur. It's like so good. Like the
Thank
quality,
you.
and you should definitely be proud that you raised $12,000, even though you didn't hit your goal. That's a lot of money. Some people have never even seen that in their bank account. Okay, so
It
that's
is. It
definitely a
is.
big accomplishment to
Thank
hit.
you. Thank
And so
you.
in this process, what would you say you've learned through this whole pandemic, with just homeschooling yourself? Like, what have you learned about yourself? You were apart from your husband. What I was thinking, I'm hearing,
Yeah.
through COVID, you guys were separated, not separated in marriage,
Yeah.
separated by location and
No.
geograph.
It
Um,
was, yeah. We were separated physically for 18 months. Um and the thing that gave me comfort was that it wasn't on me and it wasn't on him. Like, it wasn't because we chose to be. It was
mm,
because it had to be. Like, God saw fit, right? Like, and
mm,
so he is king of, like, I want marriages together. I want you with your husband, you with your wife. And so there must have been something for us to do. And there was. A lot of what we think of basketball is it's a ministry too, right? It's a
mm,
chance to meet people in places of the world where they don't know him or we think they don't know him. And it doesn't
mm,
mean that we're out here preaching to anybody, but
mm,
we're out here trying to live a life that represents him, that makes people say,
mm.
oh, there's something about her, or there's
Yeah.
something about him. Like, I want to know more. I want to know, like, how do you keep that faith, or I want to know how do you stay happy, or I want to know, all of these things. And so, that's what's the ministry. And so I had a baby. Like, there was just the whole situation. There was nothing, like, he literally shut the world down. So there was nothing I could do. So us being apart was not amazing, especially towards the end with those pregnancy hormones.
Yeah.
As I was getting ready to have a baby during what we call the apocalypse. We just call it the zombie apocalypse because that's what it felt like. That was probably a little bit more of a blur just because that was a really, really tough part of it. But it
Mm.
was on God. And I think that's the one thing I've learned, like during the pandemic and through all of this, I have no control. Like
Mm.
since the beginning of our conversation, I've been talking about like just relinquishing control. And what does that mean? And every time I think I get to the point where I submit things to God, God's like, no, 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 get that here too. Like, I see that behind your back. Like, I want it. I want it
Mhm.
all. And that's what he wants, right? He wants full control. He wants us to seek him. He wants us to be like delight ourselves in his word and his way
Mhm.
so he can change our heart so that everything we do we'll be happy about, right? Because we'll know like it's God. And I've feel like I've lived a life. So before I went overseas, I lived a life where I had what the world standards was success, and
Mm.
I lived that good life and all this stuff. And I was like, but it wasn't with God. That was with me, and I didn't like it. And so
Mm.
now, even with all of the not so pleasantries of chasing after God, it's just like, but it feels so much better. And the
Mm.
hard stuff isn't as hard.
Mm.
It still gets very hard. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
I still feel
sure.
like Job sometimes with these conversations I have with God. Um, Even though I'm not comparing myself to Job, just the conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but it's hard, and it's not gonna get like life never gets easier. You just get stronger.
Mm.
Your faith, right? Your
Life
faith,
does not get
endurance.
easier, but your faith gets stronger. Come
Yeah.
on. That's so good.
Your endurance. You just build that stamina, right? And it's always gonna be tested. Like always,
Yeah.
always.
That's so good. And I think, man, you would think that you're in America, you live in Michigan, you have kind of everything at your disposal, at your at reach, but then God pulls you internationally across the world to Japan,
Hmm.
and you obviously have to start a whole new community. There's not a lot of churches, community out there. Um, would you say your faith got deep? Like
Yeah.
really, did it take time, or it was like no, like um, it
Um,
was a journey?
it was a journey. It was probably so the time I moved there till the time I had my daughter, it was nothing but building, like reading and Bible studies and like devoting. It's that solitude, right? So like we see it so often in the Bible, right? Especially
Mhm.
the Old Testament, where God takes people away from their home to bring
Mm.
them closer to Him. And I needed that. I needed to get away from the noise and people and the things, and I just needed that time to like really dive deep and get to know God. Like before, God was like my grandma's God. Like I love him. He seems cool. Like I've heard of him, heard he does amazing things. Like I've grown up Christian, old school Pentecostal, like Christian, like yep, that's how I grew up. But like I never got to know him, right? Like I didn't know his word or his way. I never seen him like work. And so it wasn't until I went overseas where I'm like, okay, this is what it feels like. Like this is why people are so hyped about God. Like this is it. Okay. So I needed that moment, that time to grow. And I think that even with growth, it's a lot of ups and downs, right? Like you have these seasons where you're reading every day, you're praying 10 times a day, like you're just in it and you're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
all about God. And then life starts happening and you're like, God, I'm trying. God, I don't
Mhm.
have it in me. God, I need you. And so, that's just why we're supposed to bury his word in our heart, because we won't always have that time or that like the resources, the
Mhm.
capacity. Like I've been through moments, I think, over the last couple of years where I just didn't have the capacity. Like God, I'm literally just trying to wake up and go, like 202, 202 is whew, like it's
Yeah,
a whole.
yeah.
And then I was writing books and things during this time. I was like juggling a lot, and I was solo parenting is what I call it. And I'm just like, God, I don't know. Like, I don't know what this is. So
Yeah.
there were some days I just went to sleep. Like, I don't know. I don't have it in me. I don't want to talk about it. I'm just gonna just
But
try and
God
make
is
it.
so faithful, and just to see where you are
So
now and where
faithful.
the growth has been, yeah, I
Yeah.
had 2 kids under 2, do my master's with you, like, I remember my first semester, first week of school, we're in the same class, we got a 20-page paper, I'm like, "Oh my gosh," like, I have 2 kids, how am I supposed to write a 20-page paper? It was on
Yeah.
immigration, like, I was like, eh but that definitely, I have to say that season really brought me closer to God. I really needed him because I already felt inadequate already about school. I
Right.
struggled getting there, but I was like, "Okay, God, you're gonna help me with these 2 kids that are like," my boys were 1 and 3 at the time.
Mhm.
also like doing these night classes somewhere during the day and still feeding them, taking care of them, and doing all those homework assignments. But I find sometimes when God brings the weight or when these trials come, it's so funny or interesting the supernatural strength that you have
Mhm.
to get it done. I
Yeah.
don't remember really asking for ever having a late assignment. I got it done. There was
Mhm.
many tears, many, many tears, but it that tension brought me closer to Christ, as if I
Mhm.
was like, I could have said, "You know what? Let me not do my goes back to school and just take the easy route. Just let me just be a mom, stay home, and not do the school thing." But I felt God was calling me to do higher education, to go back to
Mhm.
school with 2 small kids, and so, um,
Yeah.
it's powerful what God can do with your yes. I
Yes.
always tell people that, like, with your yes, God can do so much. What would you say to your 16-year-old self if you can go back to that?
This is the hardest question in the world. Um, um, I would just tell her to have a little grace on herself, right? Like I feel like at the 60-year-old me was so determined, right? Like I'm gonna go to law school, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna have this plan. I'm not gonna be one of those people who go to school for something and do something else. What, you know? Like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get it done, I'm gonna work hard, just like live a little more, worry a little less, know that God's got you when things don't go the way you want it to do. I feel like you critique your own stuff. Like I critique me more than anyone else ever could, right?
Mm,
So it's like nothing you say about me is really gonna get to me the way that the things that I say about me will, right? And
mm,
so if I could tell her anything, it'd just be, give yourself a little grace. Like you're 16. It's okay. Like it's really okay. Like just live a little. It's okay.
and who inspires you? Like, what would you say who inspires you? Yeah.
Everybody.
Mm,
That's why like Inspirus, like this company. My company's
yes,
name is Inspirus,
yes.
and it's just because I'm so inspired by the life I've lived, right? Like,
Mhm,
I don't think there's anybody walking this earth that God can't use. And so that in and of itself inspires me. So I've been heavily inspired by teachers. Teachers really inspire me. So yes, I'm homeschool. I'm not like anti public school, anti teachers, anti like no, that's not me. I
mm,
homeschool because I have to homeschool. The moment I can get my son in somebody else's school, I probably will. So like that is the goal. But teachers inspire me. There are teachers who have made such a huge impact in my life. There are lives that I see in myself make an impact in as a teacher. Family inspires me. I love, love, love my family so much. Um, they inspire everything I do. Friends inspire me. I feel like I've met some amazing people over the years. Japan has inspired me for everything that it is and everything that it isn't. It has inspired me so much. Which is why, like in a lot of my books, you will always see some type of Asian character
mm.
um, represented, like across the board. That is one that I always have in my books. So um, life is so inspiring. The Bible is so inspiring. I actually overseas fell in love with it. Like it forget reality TV. Like, have you read the Old Testament?
Right?
Like, like I just want to know, have you read it? Because woo, like forget it. Like forget Mari, like all those shows you want drama, like we got it all.
Right?
We have multiples of multiples. It's interesting. So
So
I've just been inspired by life.
yeah, so lastly, like if someone had a dream in their heart and they're so nervous to take the jump, what would you tell them? And they just feel like they don't know how to start. Like what would be your like counsel, advice, or guidance to them?
So just jump. Like
Mm,
like if you imagine I'm afraid of heights. So if I'm faced with the jumping, like physically jumping, I'm just gonna look. Like
mhm,
who's supposed to do what? Like I'm not jumping. I'm not doing that. But half the battle is just jumping, right? And knowing that God is gonna catch you. So
mm,
I think if you look at jumping and you think like you're jumping and there's nothing there to catch your fall, like just imagine that God is there to catch you. So for me,
mm,
I would say write it down first. If nothing else, if you have no resources, no money, no idea, write it down. And then from
mhm,
writing it down, look it up. Google and YouTube. You can find anything you need on Google or YouTube. Look it up. and ask, start talking about it. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, don't tell people your dreams and things like that. I was able to network through telling people what I'm trying to do, and they were able
Mhm.
to recommend other people. Um, so I would say prayerfully ask for help. And
Mhm.
asking for help doesn't mean that they have to hold your hand through it. It could just be as simple as, can you tell me where's the best place to look? Like, I see you're
Mhm.
successful, or I see you're doing
So good.
this. And just do it. Because like I said, like when I started this, I didn't have the capacity to even run the business the way we're running it now, like financially, mentally, physically. I didn't have the capacity. But when I started moving and expecting God to like make a way, because this was what He was telling me to do,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like he's not gonna be mocked, right? He's not gonna fall short on His promises. Like, I stood on who He was, not me. And so I
Come
think
on.
that that's big too. Like, just stand on who God is.
Mhm.
You're His, we're His. He
Mhm.
doesn't want the worst for us. I think as Christians, we sometimes think we're supposed to fail,
Mhm.
or we're supposed to hurt and suffer, which that comes with life, right?
Mhm.
But like, God wants good things for
Yeah.
us. And we get so stuck on the bad things that are just going to happen, and not stuck on the fact that He is still God all by Himself. He doesn't need me or you to help him. And so my
Come
word for
on,
this
preacher, Alicia. For encouraging us today. Like,
yes, just
so,
go.
so good. Like, you know what? Like, thank you for taking the jump. Thank you for your yes. Your stuff's so good. I know it's gonna really change people. A lot
Thank
of kids,
you.
they can see themselves in books, in your curriculum. Obviously you went to school for something else, but God had a big plan for you. And so thank you for taking that jump to Japan, being with your husband, and just,
Yeah,
even homeschooling, it's a sacrifice because it's not your ideal thing, but you're still doing it. And God is
yeah.
probably building skills in you that you have never had if you not take that jump and to do that. And so
For
kudos for you to
sure.
taking that jump. How could people
Thank
follow
you.
you? And if they want to even see your books, where can they like contact you?
Yes, so I do have a website. It's www.inspirus, Inspirus kids.com. And then Instagram, I think is the best way to follow me. It's Alicia underscore Kennedy underscore. And yeah, everything flows through that page for the most part. Um, and I mean, I'll be trying to, when you see advertisements or we see us out there, just go for it. Follow us.
Yes.
Support.
And I'll be praying when you're ready. I know that it's gonna be the next 12 months. You'll be coming back again to launch these books. And so thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing your story, your
Thank
journey,
you.
just encouraging having faith. I think it's definitely your journey is a story of faith. And I'm encouraged and
Thank
inspired to
you.
just take the jump. And so I'll meet you backstage in a couple minutes. But
Sounds
thank you
good. Thank you
again.
so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Well, guys, it's finally done. Season 2. We got here. It's been an amazing journey. I think, again, I took the jump, my little jump to just do the show. And so thank you for those that liked. If you haven't liked already, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm praying should I do season 3? I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm going to pray through it this summer and just continue to go there, have that real raw conversation with yourself and others, whatever inspires you. And so again, I hope to see you guys online. If you haven't, follow me on Instagram at Chantal Beresford. I'm always talking about what's going on in my life. And if you live in Toronto or the GTA, I am putting on with amazing girls a women's event this weekend at Serve City Church. Go to servecitywomen.com and come and check us out. We have an event called Dream Again. It's going to be, when I say good, it's about to be good. And so make sure you get your tickets. And if not, I will see you online again in the near future. Take care and see you soon. Peace.